The first of these that I'd like to share with y'all is, y'all, I've been in the South too long, is that I realize now that I looked constantly for confirmations of my faith from the natural world. It wasn't just answered prayer, which, and there was no such thing as a coincidence in my life. If something good happened, it was because God did it. If something bad happened, it was because in some way I was not faithful enough, I was not reading my Bible enough, I wasn't going to church enough, I wasn't a true Christian. I had made some kind of error or mistake. So I credited God and miracles, the Holy Spirit, with anything good that happened, and I credited anything bad that happened to myself. The great error of this, one of the great prices that I paid for this, were the occasions where I would make an effort to make some positive thing happen in my life, and then I would pray about it and leave the results up to God. Lord, if you want me to go through that door, open the door. Make it easy. Make the way clear to me. It caused me to hesitate. It caused me frequently to back off from my own personal responsibility and not take the initiatives, the efforts, the actual energy that it takes to make things happen in your life that are positive for you and the people that you care about. I see how easily this can lead to a certain amount of laziness, and I see it now clearly in myself. I saw it in other Christians all along, all the time, and yet I justified it and tried to write that off as faith, giving it some kind of respect that it truly didn't deserve. Though I am a reasonably educated person, I have a master's degree in clinical psychology from a respected university. Certainly understood the scientific method, read peer-reviewed journals. I just so readily and willingly accepted pseudoscience statements from religious leaders and preachers that discounted even something as basic a fact as evolution, accepted the stories out of the Bible, such as Noah's Ark, without real serious investigation and question. If the next quack came along and he said he found a piece of gopher wood on top of Mount Ararat, I just was fascinated with this information without doing any investigation whatsoever. And I have to say today I'm rather ashamed of that. I look back and realize that I was just so easily willing to stay ignorant of the true facts of discovery. I accepted what I needed to. I eventually accepted evolution as fact, and I just incorporated it into the Genesis story with my own little sub-story that I shared with people, and it's amazing. I would share it with other Christians, and they would just say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, when it totally was unjustified by theology. And maybe this one is the most embarrassing of them all, and it has to do with egotism, a certain self-righteous rightness within my own belief system, my own dogma, my own interpretation of biblical truth, and that has to do with the idea that all other religions were absolutely batshit crazy. I could look at Mormonism and see the flaws readily in the deceptions and the way that it was created, actually, in the relatively recent past. The same with Jehovah's Witness. those smiling people would come to the door, I used to love to talk to them, and I thought surely they were involved in a cult, were deceived and rather ignorant, actually, even of their own religion. Scientology, don't even get me started. Taoism, Hinduism, reincarnation, pantheism, all of them just looked absolutely ridiculous to me. And when I would review their stories, for some reason, their stories would not hold water in logic compared to some triune God figure deciding that, he needs friends, and so he has to create them. And so he makes all of this that is, and then he, when he's done with that, he's like, that's pretty good, but I'm still lonely. And he grabs up a pile of mud and he slaps it together and spits on it or breathes on it or whatever it is that I imagine that he might have done. And poof, he makes it come into existence. He does surgery on one of his creation, pulls a rib out, and out of that one piece of rib, he makes a woman. Snakes talk, donkeys talk, the sun stands still. He creates all of this, and then all of a sudden he says, I'm really sorry I did this. It's all screwed up. It's not working really well. Let me just start over, flood the whole damn thing, kill everything that is, except for, these a few that I save out. I'll just start over. No biggie. No big deal. Looking back, I realize how egotistically stupid my approach was. And I have to say, I'm actually kind of ashamed of it. Okay, the last one, which really does embarrass me, but I have to confess, is this whole concept of hell, which I was taught and believed from the time before I believed in Santa Claus. It's one thing to believe in these stories when you're a child. It's another thing when you're a person of sentient, of conscious knowledge of the world, and knowledge of suffering, knowledge of other people, understanding of what it is to be a human, to accept the concept that there are some people that are going to burn in eternal torment forever. I don't know how long forever is. I don't. But forever and ever and ever. And be okay with that, because after all, it's God that decided this. Okay, the last thing about the hell concept, the last little piece is that, like many of the other stories in the Bible, I must confess that as I got older, a little wiser, a little more of a thinking person, I created my own hell concept. I warped and changed the theology that is plainly taught in the Bible, and certainly plainly taught by Jesus, that hell was a real place, that it was real torment, that it really was going to happen, and that billions of human beings were going to suffer there. I didn't really believe it. And I could not accept it. And I could not understand how this could be a moral, ethical sentence for billions of fellow creatures because they were born into the wrong century, born to the wrong parents, born into the wrong religion, had a different way of thinking, were taught differently. It absolutely made no sense. And so because it made no sense to me, rather than seriously investigate the foundations of the very religion and theology that taught it to me, I just made my own up. And I find so many Christians doing this that it absolutely is probably more the norm than not. Only, it seems, in today's world, it's only the most fundamentalist, literalists that truly still are preaching and believing this, and by much of mainstream Christianity, they are thought to be rather foolish. I was one of them.